What up, my homies? We're going to rig a little something up. So we're out here fishing. I want to show you a little something that I figured out. And I didn't just figure it out. You know, there's a bunch of guys that I'm sure are doing it. But it's one of those things where we kind of reimagine old school techniques and sort of like take a new approach to them. A lot of you guys know that I'm good buddies with JT Kenny. He's a good friend. He's helped me out a lot. And he makes, he designed this JTK. It's a mag Ned. It's a Nichols, like little jig head. You guys know I love throwing a Ned. And this is the one that I throw, especially when I'm around bigger fish. I'll use the Clint Davis when I'm like doing smallmouth fishing, spotted bass fishing. But, you know, most of the time guys are throwing a net out, and it's usually spring, right? And they're just like drag doodling it, you know, like shaking it on a bed that they can't see, or fishing it almost like a shaky head in that. So what I've been playing around with, and my buddy who owns 44 Tackle, Chris Kingery, he has one of his team members for 44 Tackle made the Bassmaster Elite series. I think it was this last year. And one of the ways that he really sort of capitalized in the opens to make it, and we did a video on it, is he actually pitches a jig to forward-facing fish. It's almost like flipping or pitching to forward-facing fish. So he'll take a half-ounce, three-quarter-ounce jig, big, bulky, with a skirt and a trailer, and he'll actually flip that thing out. And in comparison to these minnow dangler guys, where they're always staying above the fish, which isn't wrong. Like, a majority of the fish, in my opinion, bite that way when you stay above them. But what he's doing is actually pitching that big jig to those same fish that you see on forward facing, and basically causing them to react and follow the bait to the bottom. There's a few little tricks to it that I think you need to implement, but I was thinking about that and I'm like, why couldn't you do that with one of my favorite rigs ever? And that's a Ned rig. You know, it's a little more finessey, it's still that jig presentation, has a real cool fall, and when it gets to the bottom it kind of stands a little bit. So we're gonna play with this Ned and do some pitching to fish that you would normally throw like a minnow jig to, or throw like a jerkbait to, but we're going to try to get them to go to the bottom and sort of activate on that pitch, almost like flipping and pitching, like flipping mats or flipping like cover and that, and activate on that fall. I've done this around grass, but I've never done it with like open water fish with forward facing. So hit that like and subscribe button. I'm going to strap a worm on this. One of the things that I do, since we are in late summer, is I like to use something a little bit bigger. So I don't use your standard like Ned rig worm. I actually take, this is a Gambler Fat Ace, but it's basically a 6-inch stick bait. It's a very stocky, stubby stick bait, and I go for the 2-for-1 deal, and I cut that joker right in half, and basically strap half of that stick bait. Of course, you got to run a stick bait with a blue tail in Florida. Strap half of that stick bait on the JT Mag Ned, and it gives me a little bulkier presentation. It's a lot easier to pitch out there, and I think it just gets some bigger bites. It's short, so it's finesse, but it's got that girth going. Probably more girth than we're all used to working with. Oh dear. Oh my God, there's like 14 of them that just dropped on it. There's a little group of 4. They're like little, there she is. They're like little wolf packs chasing, I wonder if they're like chasing bluegill or bait. I don't know if there's a bait. Oh, that's a freaking giant, dude. This is so insane. It's smallmouth fishing for largemouth. Like, that's literally what it is. I cannot believe they're biting like this. The more fish that are there in the group, the more likely it is. That's a nice 4-pounder, dude. Little dangle in the head, bro. The more fish that are in a group, the more likely it is they'll bite, and they'll kind of compete for it. But you just get them to go down, and I swear to God, it's like new school flipping, man. It's so crazy, and it's such a cool little bite, dude. Seeing them actually go down to it and chomp on it. Oh, he had it. And he's got it again. That one came up and ate it when it went up. Basically, when I stroked it up, he chased it all the way to the top. It's funny because that is how you catch your bigger fish sometimes. It's not hooked very well, but that's that whole like spooning it, getting to react, getting to jump up. I do that with, shows you guys that with like Sakamata shad and that, where you kind of like pop that bait off super duper quick, and yeah, one of two things is gonna happen. They're gonna disengage completely. They're gonna come smoke that little Nichols Ned. That's a big one. What's funny is it seems like the bigger ones, like they don't just like dart down like super hot. They kind of like wallow on down. They're like, yeah, I might go want to eat that. Bro, you just kind of, you did the lazy chair approach. You just got in your car and you're like, let me get DoorDash. That's what's nice about this JTK thing too. It's got a little stouter hook and it absolutely sticks them. That's a freaking solid one, dude. This is ridiculous. Whoa. Hit myself in the hat. That thing freaking hit it so hard. I haven't seen this fish yet. Oh my gosh, dude. Oh gosh, that's a freaking 7-pounder. Oh dear. Oh dear, take it easy. Oh dear. She doesn't even know she's hooked. I done gotted you. Oh, look how fat, dude. Look how fat that thing is. That is a stud, bro. That is a fatty bovatty. I want to get her back, dude. That is a beautiful fish. Back down she goes. Look at that beaut, dude. That fish gave me a ride. What's really scary is there was a bigger one right above her. That was stupid. Like I literally like picked that fish. There's like 4 or 5 of them over there. And I'm like, that one's the biggest one according to Active Target 2. And I made the bait drop right in front of her. And she actually went down. That's like when everything goes right. I need to go buy a lotto ticket or something. Oh dear, that's another great freaking, oh, he come off. He come off. Ah, I screwed up hardcore. Oh dear, that's a really big one. Golly. Oh dear, stay on there. Stay on there. That's like a 7-pounder. This is so ridiculous. I mean, this is flipping. This is flipping 2024, boys. With a little, oh, he's gonna do it. You're not done? Oh my gosh. Come on back to me. That's why you use that like stouter Ned though. Because this fish would have eaten a freaking Ned for dinner. Right in the, God, look how fat that thing is, dude. Look at that beast, bro. That's a beast fish. We're in beast mode. I gotta get her back. I got a lot to say about this technique, so get ready for some details. So first things first, there's 2 ways or 3 ways really that I'm fishing this thing. Everything is about the drop mainly. So you're pitching it out and dropping it to them. It's just like flipping, like new school. It's video game flipping. That's the best way to describe it. You're pitching it out to them and I'll let it go to the bottom. Sometimes I'm just gonna dead stick it, old school Senko style, you know, out, drop it to the bottom. Other times, kind of going to take it to that smallmouth spotted bass level, pitch it out, and you're basically shaking it in place. You're bed fishing, shake, 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 just to try to keep them interested, trying to get them to commit, just trying to kind of keep their focus and just drive them so nuts that they eat it up. The third way, and that's the trickiest way, is sort of spooning this Ned. And I think you could do it with a lot of different baits. The Ned just works really well and has a real cool kind of like fall to it, like darting fall. It's something that I've done with, you know, a hover rig. I've done it with a Nico rig. Basically, you're not jerking with your rod spooning it. All you're doing is you'll shake or you're dead sticking on the bottom. The fish isn't engaging. Or maybe there's a group of fish and the one that went down to the bottom's not eating, but there's others that are up. You're just trying to give yourself second chances. So you do 2 fast reels just with your little spinning reel. Do not pop your tip. Do not go like this. I don't know what it is, but I have literally studied this for the past like 2 years, I think, since I've really been playing with this active target and forward facing. They do not like when you pop your rod. They want it reeled. I don't know what the difference is, and maybe it's just a me problem, but too fast reels and then open your bail immediately. Everything needs to be fast. Fast up and then fast straight down to the bottom. All you're trying to do is re-trigger that fish, just sort of redirect that fish, get them to eat. Like making a second drop almost. And a lot of times that can actually trigger other fish in the school or the group that you're casting to. It's better to cast to 2 or 3 fish, no doubt about it, but you can do this with singles. You're going to get a lot of fish that aren't going to eat it. It's just like flipping. It's a statistic game. The more drops you make, the more likelihood it is you're going to catch them. I like doing this shallower. That's where I think this is a little bit sneakier, especially for largemouth. I'm talking 3 foot to maybe 10 foot at the deepest. I'm using a 3/16 mag Ned. If you wanted to do it deeper, you could use a heavier one. You could also use a lighter one as the water cools. I like the 3/16 because in that depth range, it has a pretty quick fall. It goes down pretty quick, but it's not like a bullet going down. It goes down, they see it, they track it, they follow it. It seems to have just that right fall rate for that mid-depth to shallow stuff. I can fish it pretty quick, and then when I'm doing that sort of that popping or that spooning with the reel of the Ned, it drops back down pretty quick. It's a pretty quick up and down because everything with this is a reaction. Like even if you're shaking the bait, it's just like bed fishing. You're trying to get a reaction. This is not slow, kind of like side dragging a Ned. Like you're spending 5-6 seconds per drop, if that, and then moving on. It's all a numbers game. I can't emphasize that enough. The other thing is I'm doing this with this is a KS2 Elite. It's a Halo. You guys have seen me use this rod for my Neds a whole bunch. I like this. It's a 610. It's a little shorter than a lot of setups that most guys have. It has a Daiwa Exceller 12-pound cast braid. In this context, since we're in Florida, I'm using 10-pound fluorocarbon. It's pretty open water, thrown up near the grass lines, but it's not super heavy cover. There might be some sticks and grass and that, but it ain't too bad. So that's kind of like the key to the setup. I can make really accurate pitches, really put this bait. And that's another trick. Every time I think of something, it just like pops into my head. You need to get within like 1 to 2 feet of these fish, probably 1 foot. They need to see it drop right next to them and be like, hey, what's that? And then just go and chase it. The further away you get, the less of a response, if any, do you get. So accurate pitches, accurate casts are absolutely key. And it's a great way to kind of learn. Every forward facing is different on every boat. I don't care if you buy the same brand as me or as anybody else, your distances are going to be slightly different. It's just reality. 40 might be like 35, 20 might be like 15 or 25. So you got to kind of get a feel for what that casting range is and get comfortable with it. And making those precise drops, getting it right next to them so that those fish see it. It's just like when you're flipping like a pad corner or a mat, like a corner of a mat, and you know a fish is there. You want it right on that point, right next to them, so they see it drop right in front of their face and they have to react. They either go down, they chase it, they eat it, or not. Some of your bites are going to come on the drop too. You need to kind of play around with the forward facing and get comfortable with seeing when the fish is kind of over the bait and covering it up. That's why I did a lot of recordings for you. I hope you guys kind of got an idea of what this looks like visually on the active target too, because that's one of the most important things. But it's a fun little technique. I think it's really good for this late summer and fall deal because there's a lot of bait running around, and these fish are on kind of like a flat. They're outside the grass line. They're kind of roaming around the flat. We got a little bit of cloud cover, a little bit of low light, which I think helps, but they're running around on this flat, not really keying in. They're near the grass line. They're near the pad line. They can be near cover, but they're not so much keyed in onto that as they are the forage. They're chasing bait, and this looks just like a minnow or like a little brim kind of darting around and dropping or trying to run away from them down to the bottom and get away, because a lot of these fish are kind of just suspended floating around. You could do this with a variety of baits. I chose just like a little Ned, basically a mag Ned, I guess you'd call it. It's cutting down like a fat ace. Obviously we have tannic water, so that blue tail, that fat ace is absolutely perfect. For your lakes, you can downsize. You could put like a little standard stick bait on here. You could put a little half of a finesse worm. You could put a little minnow bait on here, like a little Kitech minnow or a little gambler minnow. Any of those. Basically, you can kind of clone what these guys are doing with smallmouth and mimic your forage that you have, because all you're trying to do is reproduce that darting sort of minnow, darting forage kind of presentation. So there's no limit to what you can do. The one thing though is these fish bite pretty hard. I recommend using a stouter Ned. As I mentioned, I have that JT Kenny mag Ned. It's got that slightly stouter hook on. I need to set the hook a little bit harder, but what I find is these fish really kind of take the bait, or you don't know they're there, and it just loads up and you pull on them. And if you're using like a super fine wire kind of jig, Ned jig, you can really open it up, and they tend to be pretty darn aggressive, and they're bigger fish usually, because I don't think these fish really get targeted. Another example would be like that Gambler, the Gambler Power Ned. You know, something just with like a little stouter, but still that like 2/0, 1/0 size hook. You can tell I'm fired up. This is a fun little bite. I love fishing a Ned, and I like figuring out different ways, and it's sort of a combination of sort of flipping and fishing a Ned. So it's like highly engaged, highly active. A lot of fish do not close the deal. They'll get all frisky, they'll dart to the bait, but they don't eat it. But that's why you just kind of keep on moving through. Never spend too much time in one place, and never really assume that a place that you caught a fish is like a spot. You know, they might be around, so you want to fish broadly. Consider everything kind of like a flat. You know, you're scanning around, you're trying to figure out where the little groups are roaming around, but you're not on a spot. You're really focused on the fish specifically and how those fish are moving around and targeting those fish versus any kind of like specific structure. It's general areas, but you're not really structure or spot fishing, or I guess like cover fishing would be the best way to put it. Cool little technique. Hope you guys give it a try. If you guys have tried it, especially you guys who catch like smallmouth doing this early in spring and when you're catching them off of beds, it's very comparable to that. A little bit different because these fish are roaming around a little more, but definitely a lot of like similes, I guess, between it. But let me know what you think down in the comments box. Great way to learn your forward facing, as well as just get some really fun bites and be super engaged, kind of new school video game flipping. I'll put links to everything at Tackle Warehouse and Monster Bass down in the description for you guys to check out. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Get yourself out, try a Ned. You don't even need forward facing, to be perfectly honest. You can kind of just go pitch around in open water. If you got some kind of like ditch or something like that, you just make a bunch of drops, dude. Pop it a few times, jerk it up, do the spooning thing, use the quick reels. It's a cool way to trigger fish, and it's a way to kind of fish worm later into the fall than normally what you would. I will check you guys later. I'm gonna go try to catch a few more and then go see bog. Tight lines, my homies.